Hare Krishna, dear devotee space, accept our humble obeisance. All glories to our beloved speaker for today, His Grace KAUNTEya Prabhu. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Samud Vaishnava devotees. Shriman KAUNTEya Prabhu, we cannot thank you enough for being here today. Of course,
I
as
cannot
always.
thank you enough for inviting me.
Oh, Prabhuji, no, it's the other way around. Because one, you are a very busy person. Two, the time is quite odd for you because you are in India. It's quite late your time. Yet you still try and make time to be with us. So we're very grateful for that. And without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here. Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we have very special verses. This is the head of our Sampradaya, Lord Brahma, who is talking directly about the kingdom of God and the love life of God. So let me read the Sanskrit for you, if we can. Vapishu vidrumatatashvamalamritapsu Prishanvitani javani tulasibir Prishamvitani javani tulasibir isham Abhyarchati swalakam unnasam ikshyavaktram Ucheshitam bhagavate tyamatanga yatshri. The goddesses of fortune worship the Lord in their own gardens by offering tulsi leaves on the coral paved banks of transcendental reservoir of water. While offering worship to the Lord, they can see on the water the reflection of their beautiful faces with raised noses. And it appears that they have become more beautiful because of the Lord kissing their faces. Purport Divine Grace to see Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Generally, when a woman is kissed by her husband, her face becomes more beautiful. In Vaikuntha also, although the goddess of fortune is naturally as beautiful as can be imagined, she nevertheless awaits the kissing of the Lord to make her face more beautiful. The beautiful face of the goddess of fortune appears in ponds of transcendental crystal water when she worships the Lord with tulsi leaves in her garden. Text 33, Canto 3, Chapter 15. Description of the kingdom of God. Yannavrajantya gabido rachananuvadhach Shrinvanti yenya vishaya kukata matigni Yastu shruta hatabagair nribirata saras Tamstan kshipantya saranenu Neshu tamasu anta. It is very much regrettable that unfortunate people do not discuss the description of the Vaikuntha planets, but engage in topics which are unworthy to hear and which bewilder one's intelligence. Those who give up the topics of Vaikuntha and take the talk of the material world are thrown into the darkest region of ignorance. Prabhupada, the most unfortunate persons are the impersonalists who cannot understand the transcendental variegateness of the spiritual world. They are afraid to talk about the beauty of the Vaikuntha planets because they think that variegatedness must be material. Such impersonalists think that the spiritual world is completely void, or in other words, that there is no variegatedness. This mentality is described here as kukata matigni, intelligence bewildered by unworthy words. Hmm? The philosophies of voidness and of the impersonal situation of the spiritual world are condemned here because they will bewilder one's intelligence. How can the impersonalist and the void philosopher think of this material world, which is full of variegatedness, and then say that there is no variegatedness in the spiritual world? It is said that this material world is the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So, unless there is variegatedness in the spiritual world, then can be temporary variegatedness in the material world. No, that one can transcend this material world does not imply that there is no transcendental variegatedness. Here in the Bhagavatam, in this verse particularly, it is stressed that people who try to discuss and understand the real spiritual nature of the spiritual sky and the Vaikunthas are fortunate. The variegatedness of the Vaikuntha planets is described in relation to the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. But instead of trying to understand the spiritual abode and the spiritual activities of the Lord, people are more interested in politics and economic developments. They hold many conventions, meetings, and discussions to solve the problems of this worldly situation, where they can remain for only a few years. But they are not interested in understanding the spiritual situation of the Vaikuntha world. If they are at all fortunate, they become interested in going back home, back to God. But unless they understand the spiritual world, they rot in this material darkness continuously. Hare Krishna. So many ideas here. I would like to start with this point. We need to be, like Srila Prabhupada says, we need to be aware how fortunate we are, how grateful we should be in receiving this knowledge. I mean, it's a fact that no other religious revelation, no other religious tradition can give this sort of information. I mean, here we are discussing the planet, the place where God lives. And this is even not the final, ultimate form of God. It's Narayan, Vishnu. It's the Supreme Personality of God that is full God, but is in Vaikuntha. So there is not even the intimacy of Goloka Vrindavan, but we see how affectionate he is with the Lakshmi Devi and how these exchanges are full of bliss. And we get glimpses. We see these little lakes, pools, and they are paved with coral. Imagine the value, but obviously nobody's going to sell those things, but I'm saying the value, the beauty. Imagine a swimming pool instead of the usual little tiles that they use. Imagine it's pure, solid coral. We have seen in previous verses the description, the type of flowers, the type of birds, the type of forests. We'll see later, we'll also see the Vaikuntha is encircled by 7 rows of walls with 7 gates. This will come in a few verses in the same chapter. So it is not chauvinism or show off or arrogance if we admit, first of all, to ourselves that this is the highest religious culture the highest religious revelation, because there's no comparison. I mean, you give me any other book, any other holy book from any tradition, they don't have this information. Even theistic traditions, they believe even in one God and so on. There is only some very vague indication, like in the Quran, they say that God sits on a throne. But okay, where is this throne? How God looks? There's no information. The Bible, we see some interaction, some mystical appearance. We see God as a burning bush, a bush which doesn't consume itself. We see God somehow intervening in the activities of different populations, especially the Hebrews and so on, or sending prophets like Jesus. But frankly, objectively speaking, there is no information of the house of God, the kingdom of God. There's a lot of talk about the kingdom of God. No, the words is common in many, especially in the Christianity, the kingdom of God, but there is no information about the kingdom of God. Therefore, people are not interested. If you tell me a name of a country, but then you don't tell me anything about that country, then why I should feel inspired to go? I mean, if you tell me, okay, there is Indonesia, there is Bali, it's an island of Indonesia, and there are, it's a tropical place, and there are beaches, and there is some exotic fruits, then I may think, okay, I want to go on vacation, I go to Bali, like many people do. Or if you tell me there is a place called Norway, is up north, and there are many fjords. Fjords means where the sea goes inside the land, and there are many, many forests. And there is even a place where in the summer the sun doesn't even set. You see the sun coming down over the sea, but doesn't go inside the sea, it goes up again for a few days a year. So you tell me something special, then I want to go and see. It's called Nordkap. Cape North is the highest point of Europe. So you tell, and of course there are special expression of beauty, of power everywhere. You can tell me about the Kilimanjaro in Africa. You can tell me about the Amazon River in Brazil. But you need to tell me something. You cannot just tell me a name and then you expect me to go try to get a visa, buy a ticket, spending my money. For what? So, because there is no information about the spiritual world, then there is no enthusiasm for the spiritual world. I mean, you see sometimes, I mean, they try their best. This is not necessarily a criticism, but sometimes you see these artistic expressions of paradise, of heaven, and they're all clouds, and there's nothing going on really. And God as a very old person with a long beard. I mean, who wants to spend the eternity there, frankly speaking? I'm not trying to be blasphemous. I'm not trying to putting down different religions, but that's what they come up with. That's all they can come up with. As a result, people are not interested. They're not interested. And with the impersonalists is even worse. There is a verse in some Purana, not sure if it's a Shiva Purana, one of those. It says that Shankaracharya, Lord Shiva came as Shankaracharya. Why? To increase reproduction, to increase the people interest in sex, in having babies. Because when you speak about impersonalism, there is no attraction, So people automatically are more attracted to sex life. There is a direct connection. It is like inversely proportional. When the absolute, the spirit doesn't have any form, doesn't have any relation, doesn't have any color, doesn't have any emotion or adventure, naturally, we need to look for adventures in this material world. See, here the Bhagavatam is telling there is love life in Vaikuntha, and he gives the example. The Lakshmi Devi is already super beautiful. We can't probably even visualize the beauty, the perfect shape of the face, the eyes, the hair, the gait, the grace. We can probably not even fully visualize and grasp, but we have an idea of the most beautiful feminine goddess. And here it says, when she gets kissed, she becomes even more beautiful. And obviously, it's an emotional expression, meaning it's not just chemical. Okay, she gets the kiss and she becomes beautiful. Because she gets the kiss, she becomes more happy. And ultimately, the beauty of a person, besides the shape, is the happiness that exudes from his or her face and body language. So we have this information, we can meditate, and other people unfortunately cannot. And when they try, they come short. But to speak of the Buddhists, they don't even have a heaven. They don't even have a heaven, conceptually, philosophically. Even the Jains and Buddhists are very similar. One difference is that the Jain believe in an eternal soul, and the Buddhists don't even believe in an eternal soul. So the Jains think they believe in an eternal soul, but they're atheistic. They say that the soul, when it's liberated, it just, I don't know, it gets stuck up there somewhere, and there is some sense of, I guess, satisfaction. So, okay, now I'm not dying anymore, but I'm also not doing anything. So it's unfortunate. And this is Kali Yuga. There is a lecture by Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. The title was, When Gods Were More Human, Humans Were More Divine. In other words, when the conception of God is more personal, people become purified. People become more absorbed. And when the conception of the divine becomes more vague or directly impersonal, people become more absorbed in material life. Because material life is miserable, but at least there is variety. At least there is variety. I mean, you can walk in nature. There are bees, and there are flowers, and there are sometimes you even get berries, and there are animals, sometimes very cute animals. I mean, it's not much, but you see a cat, you see a dog. At least there is something. You know, you have a relation. You pet the dog. He wags his tail. There is some rasa, right? It's not. I mean, it may not be the highest rasa, but there is some exchange. So at least in the material world, I mean, you go to a cinema, you see a movie, you see something happening, some explosion or some drama, some intrigue. So people are attracted to the material world because there is no information of the spiritual world. See, Karl Marx said that religion is the opiate of people. In other words, some sort of intoxication that makes them forget social issues and so on. And to some extent, it's true in the sense that if somebody is absorbed in religion, he may not think, okay, should I make a revolution? Should I change socially? To some extent, it's true. But actually, real religion is the opposite of opiate, is the opposite of intoxication. Right now, the real opiate of people is sport, not religion. People don't go to church so much, but they go with great enthusiasm to see sports event. And there are so many sports. And sometimes I wonder how there are so many professional sportsmen. Who pays them? I mean, if you see football, and you see basketball, and you see baseball, and you see cricket, and you see what's another famous sport?
MMA or boxing.
Yeah, MMA and boxing and so many categories, and there are hundreds and thousands of people, of champions in different in different in different country. Like football, every country has got their own teams, every place has got their own teams, and these stadiums are always full of people, thousands of people. People travel, fly to go. I'm just saying that's the opiate of people. Because that's people don't think of anything else. It's like they are hypnotized by these balls, oval balls or small balls. Tennis is also very popular. The small balls, big balls, golf has very small balls. So people are seeing these balls flying around, and that kind of hypnotizes them. And whoever plays ball better becomes a great hero. And all they do is kicking a ball. That's all they do. And they're great heroes. And they have millions of followers. And what they do, they kick a ball, or they throw a ball, or they hit the ball with some sort of racket or some sort of bat. That's all they do. And they're the heroes of the world. They're the most popular people in the world. So religion is not the opiate of people, is sport, which is the opiate of people. And one reason is that because religion is boring. Sometimes religious rituals are very boring. I remember, I was going to church. I was born in Rome, Italy, and I grew up as a Catholic. So I would get my Catholic training. I would go every Sunday. And it's not a criticism, but it was so boring. I remember it was only half an hour, but it looked like 3 hours for me. 3 hours. Now, no, if you go Mongol Arctic, especially if there is a good singer, it's the same half an hour, but it passes very quickly. You absorb yourself, you sing, you repeat, you dance, and then it's finished. But for me, that half an hour of mass, holy mass, was like almost a torture. And of course, as soon as I become teenager and this and that, I stopped going. Everybody stops going. More or less. In Africa, there is still a lot of religious sentiments, and there is more singing, there is more dancing, so there is still some life in church. But in the West, churches are dying, dead. There's nothing happens. In fact, if you search in the internet, you'll find that so many churches are being sold in Europe because they don't have priests and nobody goes. So these are huge buildings. They don't know how to maintain them. So they sell it. They become bars. They become different things, shops. Anyway, so back to what I want to stress before opening for comments and maybe questions is this. We need to have this balance. We need to know factually that what we have is the best. It's the best information. It's the most accurate, the most detailed, the most enchanting. We may not be Sanskrit scholars, but you can see the beauty, even with my rough pronunciation, the beauty of the poetry, the beauty of the Sanskrit. So rich, so fluid, so flowing, so musical. I want to speak of what is described. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, and Krishna, reflecting their faces in crystal clear lakes surrounded by coral and vegetation and so many other things. And this is eternal. It's not one of these things in the material world that, okay, is there for few days. You may have heard a few days ago, Brigitte Bardot died. She was, I don't know if you ever heard about her. When I grew up, Brigitte Bardot was a French actress, and she just died a few days ago. She was 91. But when I grew up, Brigitte Bardot was like the epitome, the symbol of female attractiveness and beauty, at least in Europe, at least where I was growing up. Because when I was growing up, she was still in her 30s, like that. So I'm just saying, and she just died. And of course, at 91, she was not as beautiful as when she was 25. I'm just saying, even the beauty of the material world fades. Not only fades, it just disappears at one point. So here we are talking about beauty which doesn't disappear because it's spiritual, Satchitananda. It's not a bag of bones and muscles and tubes inside. No, it's spiritual body, eternal. Okay, so one thing we need to understand that what we have, nobody else has. At the same time, we need to remain humble, person. Srila Prabhupada used the word fortunate. We are fortunate. We should not become proud. So we have this tension. We have the best product in terms of information, in terms of religion, religious practice. It's a fact. At the same time, we should become as humble as a blade of grass, tolerant as a tree. In other words, we should feel like the proverbial postman. No, the postman can deliver big checks, but he doesn't own, doesn't possess those checks. Or nowadays, Amazon delivery, right? A delivery boy can bring, say, a computer, which is $4,000, a Mac, the latest Mac, super equipped Mac, $4,000. Maybe he ships 10 in a day, maybe 20 in a day, huh? Under Christmas or something. So, but he doesn't have, though, that he cannot afford those computers. He may have a little Acer for $400 computer, or maybe he doesn't even have a computer at home. So we should feel, yes, we are the messengers of this great culture. I mean, we have the creator of the world, Lord Brahma, sub-creator, who's talking about the spiritual world, and we are here listening, hopefully enchanted, hopefully fascinated, enthralled. But obviously, this doesn't belong to us. It's not. We should not think, oh, it's because of my great pious credits that now I know more than others. I mean, we know more than the Pope. We know much more than the Dalai Lama. We know more than everybody else. But at the same time, we need to remember we shouldn't take credit personally. The credit goes to the acharyas. The credit goes to Srila Prabhupada, who brought this Bhagavatam to the West. Personally, took this Bhagavatam and brought it to the West on a boat. And so we can enjoy this status as the most informed religionists. At the same time, we need to remember that, okay, we are just postmen and post ladies, and we have the best product, but at the same time, we should remember, on a personal level, we should feel fallen, or at least unqualified. So these two things should be together. We should be clear that there is no better information in this world about anything, not just religion as a, what do you call, as a niche. Just as information about reality, there's nothing better in this world. Even scientists, they don't know what's going on. I mean, they talk this, that, dark matter, this, that. Once in a while, they change. Oh, this changes everything. Oh, this changes everything. Oh, this changes everything. So all the what you told me before, what was that? It was garbage. What was that? What are you talking me? After a few years, oh, this changes everything. They have no idea. They have no real. Yeah, they know it's something fantastic, so they are fascinated. Srila Prabhupada say the scientists are Shaktas. They worship the Shakti of God. They worship through their intelligence. They try to understand the cosmos, astronomy, galaxies, but they don't know. They don't know there is a mind behind. There is no. They don't even know that there is a soul inside the body. So anyway, so we have the greatest knowledge. At the same time, we shouldn't consider ourselves the greatest people. I mean, we should consider Vaishnavas the greatest people, but individually, we should feel somehow we are lucky. We got the jackpot. We won the lottery. We won the lottery of knowledge, and we need to use it wisely. We need to give it. We need to give it humbly to others. Okay, so this is my religious message of today. This is my little sermon. If you have any comment, experiences, observation, questions, maybe doubts.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. His Grace Kaunteya Prabhu. Very beautiful, very beautiful. Of course, I have some questions, but we have His Grace Thakur Murari set up. Thakur Murari Prabhu, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Mom, your obeisances, I'll go to Srila Prabhupada.
Sure.
So thank you, Prabhu, for this wonderful sermon today. Yes, it's nice. As a matter of fact, in my country, we are.
What's your country?
Jamaica.
Okay.
Yes. So we are regarded as having more churches per square mile. So actually, we're in the Guinness Book of World Records, as far as I understand.
For
But
what?
as you said,
For what?
we are
For
in Guinness Book of World Record.
yes,
As
for what?
Guinness Book of World Records.
Oh, for what?
Yeah.
Having more church per square mile.
Oh, okay. Okay. More churches for square mile. I didn't get that.
Right.
Beautiful.
But unfortunately, churches are empty.
Oh.
So I'm suffering probably in the sense that, we grew up in the churches, but our generation, we grew up in church, but our kids, they aren't interested anymore, even at school. So, yeah, so I understand. So, nice. Thank you for the information and nice song as usual. So, that's my comment. But it's really a problem. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Krishna.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it, of course, is a problem, and at the same time, it's an opportunity because people may not be against God intrinsically, it's just they don't feel interest. But if they hear the devotees chanting in the street, they can join because they want to have fun, and it's not necessarily they're against God. So if they find fun and God at the same time, they will actually join, at least temporarily, at least to have fun. I was just reading before the class some article that they say now there is like bhajan clubbing. So many people in India, young people, instead of going for discotheque and so, they go for bhajan. And of course, there is the social aspect, but there is the dance, and they sing the name of God. So it's an opportunity. The Sankirtan movement, sometimes you see, I don't know if you see, but this Mahavishnu Maharaj, the Harinam Ruchi, this group, they travel all over the world. You see those photos, you see those videos, and people from all over the world, from Australia, South America, everywhere. Young people start dancing, start chanting, because there's no stiff, there's no formality, and there is a joy, and there is color, and there is music. So, yeah, it's a problem that people are not interested, but it's an opportunity for us to give them a, what do you call, a higher taste. And instead of just giving a little wafer, this little communion, Holy Communion, we give a full plate of prashada, like halava, much more than a wafer.
Well,
again,
Hare Krishna.
I don't want to criticize or minimize or denigrate anybody, but the experience of the world is that people are moving away from this type of religions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Babaji, thank you so much. I didn't realize until now, as Murari Prabhu was sharing this with us, that Jamaica has this record in Guinness World Record, like every church per a mile. Wow, it's interesting. Anadi Nidanam Prabhu, please give me on mute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Ja.
Please kindly accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhu, talking about many churches are being sold for other purposes. Recently, Kavichandra Swami was in Ghana, and he also made mention that in Japan, a big temple hall, you only see 2 or 3 devotees, and the rest prefer to be online. So, what do you say to that also? Is that a bad?
See, now, I don't know exactly the position of these devotees who are online and so on, but my experience of being in Japan a couple of times, like Tokyo is a huge city. I'm talking about Tokyo, for instance. It's 30 million people. Can you imagine 30 million people all in the same area? And sometimes just to move around, you got to spend so much time on the subway. And, if you to go to listen to a class, you got to spend, say, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and you already have your job all day, and people work very hard, and they already are in the public transport system all day. They go home, then they have to go again. Sometimes it's just not practical. So I don't see necessarily as a negative thing. Each devotee will have to maybe explain the situation, why they prefer to watch online and not go wherever they need to go. But it's not necessarily negative. At least they come online. We have this opportunity. Technology gives us this opportunity. Just like I'm talking from Mayapur, and some of you are in North America, some of you are in Africa, some of you may even be somewhere else. Now, there's nothing wrong. So I don't have much information. I mean, I have some general information, some general, like we say, common sense consideration that sometimes is hard to just go. I mean, even in Mayapur, there is Bhagavatam class. We have Bhagavatam class in English, in Bengali, in Russian, in Hindi, sometimes in Tamil. So we have a number of Bhagavatam classes, and many devotees, including myself, sometimes we just watch online because sometimes it takes time. You have this housewives that have to cook breakfast for the family if children need to go to school. So sometimes even in Mayapur, there are not many people present in the class, but then they see the class online at the same time, or maybe later when they have time. So it's not necessarily a negative thing. At least they watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ms. Grace Kuntia Prabhu. Anadina Prabhu, are you done with your question?
Yeah, I'm done, but I would like to ask him, so is it as potent as meeting devotees in the temple hall?
Yes, at the same time, again, there are costs involved, costs of energy, cost of time, and sometimes we cannot afford. So I'm not what you call putting down being physically with devotees and being with the mridanga, the kartas, or being with a book sitting there. I'm not saying this is not important, but some people may not be able to afford those costs. Costs in the sense of energy. Okay, you got to go. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot. There are efforts. Time. It takes time to move around. I don't know where is your tempo. If it's 5 minutes, 50 minutes, 3 hours, I don't know. And also cost of money, frankly speaking. Some places they're not very rich. I remember in one place in Russia, sometimes there was some discussion because it was kind of very poor place, at least at that time. And there was some discussion, oh, if a brahmachari goes from the temple, who pays for his bus? Just a bus ticket, you know? Who pays? Who has to pay? It was like a big issue. No, who has to pay for the bus? I mean, generally, it's not a big thing, you know, it's not a flight, it's not an air ticket. But still in that place was like an issue. Oh, who has to pay? We don't have money for the bus. So there are costs and different types of costs. And if you can afford them, yes, of course, you can spend time with devotees, but many devotees cannot afford that time and the energy. They have to go to they have a job. They cannot just go. Maybe once a week they can manage, but not every day. So we are lucky. We have this facility online, and should take advantage. Now, each person is different. If somebody lives near the temple and he just doesn't want to go, that's different because maybe he's in Maya. I'm not saying, but at least we should appreciate the devotees. At least they attend online.
Yeah.
And
Well,
these are, again, general comments. Every situation is different.
yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's interesting. Anadina Prabhu raised this topic, but I remember one time we had the fortunate opportunity to be online with His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. And I was pleasantly shocked when Maharaj came on. Of course, he asked all the devotees to turn on their cameras so he could see each and everyone. And he started saying, thank you for inviting us to your homes. So even though it was virtual, but Maharaj felt that he's been invited by the various devotees into their various homes. So there is really not much difference. And like probably you're talking about maybe the distance or the energy. Of course, you know the media temple. It was always, and I believe it still is, a problem for lots of the members to travel from Accra to come to the temple for Sunday programs and also drive back, go back. Because lots of the devotees do not drive, they have to go by public transportation. And it's not so easy. So if there is an opportunity to do it virtually, that is also okay. And like you rightly said, those who are able to go in person should also do that. So I think that is just what I remembered from those days when devotees were trying to actually find a way. In fact, devotees were trying to see how they could arrange for transportation for the membership to come to the temple and also go back to their various homes after the program. So thank you so much for sharing that. But I have a similar question that is it's actually from the Bible, which Bob Marley used it in one of his songs, that in an abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. In other words, we are so fortunate. We have all this beautiful, beautiful information about the spiritual world. But we seem not to have so much interest discussing about this place, but we have so much interest in talking about politics, sports, and other things that do not have any relationship with Vaikuntha. Now, I also want to continue by saying that, should that mean that anyone who talks about any topics other than Vaikuntha is in Maya or is just wasting his time? What do we do? If there should be any balance, how do we do that? Or it should be all material topics should be shown completely? If you may help, Prabhuji.
Okay. See, for instance, when Srila Prabhupada went to Moscow in Russia, that was a communist time, and he met this Professor Kotosky. And one of the first things he said, look, I read in Russian news, in the English Russian newspaper, that, the Russian state is open to different ideas. So he started from that and he said, so we have these Vedic ideas. These are very valuable. Why don't you look into it? So it's not that touching a newspaper or seeing a newspaper online is necessarily Maya, but it's a question of is it our service? I mean, we are servants. We need to start, everything starts from the identity. Who are we, right? Who are we? And I don't want to moralize, but just scientifically, philosophically, who are we? We are servants, right? Now, how much do we need to know about what's going on in the world? Are we doing it just out of duty, just to know? I mean, will there be a strike tomorrow, or there will be snow tomorrow, or there is a new president in the country, or it's the time to vote, something important, or are we doing as entertainment? Personally, I give an example. At one point, I was seeing too many news online, I must admit. And many was just useless because a lot of talk about people, actors, actresses. It's just in the newspaper. I wasn't looking for that. But so right now, and I hope with the mercy of the devotees, I keep it sober. Once a day, I check Reuters. You know Reuters? It's a site we could say, very austere in the sense there's not much entertainment, just information. Okay, there is a war here. There's this happening. That Trump today says something. Trump every day says something. and there is this situation there, the economy there. It's very, we could say, dry. Let's say it's dry. And now I'm keeping, and I'm happy because at least I know what's going on in the world. I personally like to know what's going on, okay? Just as a general idea. And again, maybe maybe uh, I shouldn't even say, but I like to know what's going on in the world, at least in a general sense. Huh? I'll give you an example. Before I was checking every day Italian newspapers. So Italy is not a very important place. Even in Reuters, once in a while, there is some news about Italy, if it's big, right? If they change the prime minister, or there is some big court case or something cultural, they say. But every day when I was looking at the Italian newspaper, I felt really it was a waste of time because petty politics, this party, there are 15, 20 parties, and this politician and this scandal, they're useless. So right now, and again, I hope for the blessings of the devotee that I keep it this sobriety. Right now, I don't even go to the Italian newspapers because if there is some big news, it will come in Reuters, right? In some no big news international newspaper. So, but everything starts from entertainment. We should see if it's you're doing kind of as a informed citizen. You want to have an idea what's going on in the country where you live. I remember once in Italy, when we were in the book distribution group, some devotees didn't even know anything, even didn't know who is the president of the country. Once he said, "Do you know the president of the country?" He said, "Yeah, of course, it's this person." No, this was the previous one. It's years that changed. So at one point, I tell you, even the authorities of Italy, I'm talking about 40 years ago, okay? But the ISKCON authorities told us, okay, Sunday morning, you read the newspaper as a group. Now, you see the book distributor group after the Bharatan class, 15, 20 minutes, we see the headlines. At the time, there was no online, nothing. So we'll take the newspaper once a week and see, at least to know what's going on in the country where you're preaching, right? You're selling books to people, you don't even know what's happening. So, okay, I'm just giving as an example. So a minimum of information is not necessarily Maya. Of course, if you're already, living like a recluse and you don't interact with the world, you live in a cave somewhere, you don't really care, you don't need to know because ultimately nothing changes, right? Nothing changes. Okay, the president of the country changes. So what? It's always the same problem: birth, death, disease, and old age. And no politician can change that. No politician can change that. But to have a minimum information is not necessarily, as you say, Maya. At the same time, each of us, we need to see, is it part of my service or just a waste of time? Am I addicted to more and more news? Because I remember once, and I don't mention any name, but I remember once I was with the leader, and he was constantly on the radio hearing the political news. I think that was just too much. What do you need to know? Once you need, I mean, basically in 5 minutes a day, you can know everything that goes on. And if there is something of interest, then you can maybe read that article. Otherwise, to just see the headlines, like you might have heard, Trump now he wants to have Greenland. You heard that? Now, I read the headline. You already know everything. How much more you need to know? There is this Trump who wants this Greenland, which belongs to Denmark, and he says we need to conquer it. And they already have military stations. But how much more I need to know? Then either they'll get it or they won't get it. Probably won't change my life anyway. So each of us, as a honest practitioner of Bhakti Yoga, should see the quota. What's my quota of news? Some people spend time. Television is very bad because it's very slow and it goes on and on and on and on. If you just get some news and some, I remember one devotee in India many years ago that we were in Chennai. I was living there in Madras, Chennai. So every day we'll get the newspaper, just the temple will get the newspaper. Again, before online, before the web. And he would just be completely, what do you call, straightforward. He would just grab the newspaper, turn it to the page of sport, and read the cricket news. Very honestly, I mean, he couldn't care less about anything. He would just take, because on the back in the Indian newspaper, the sport is at the back. So he would just take the newspaper, turn it, and just read the cricket. He couldn't care less about anything else. And he was very, what do you call? He was very open about it. But obviously, it's a form of Maya, right? I mean, who cares? The cricket. Some of you maybe never heard about cricket, or somebody never saw cricket. Nobody cares. Anyway, so it's a personal analysis. It's a personal reflection. How much need do I have of news? Or I do it just as an escape, as an entertainment, or as an addiction. I have to check.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I mean, there are so many reasons for me to express gratitude and thanks to Krishna. But there is one particular reason that I have to say big thank you to Krishna. And that is, as you were describing, I love soccer, football. And Krishna helped me realize that because soccer oftentimes they play it on Sunday. I have a team. I have a favorite team that I support. And when my team is playing on Sunday and the time conflicts with temple program, and I forfeit temple program and stay home to watch, my team loses. I observed this several times. So each time that my team was to play and I had to go to the temple, I'll forget about the game. I'll go to the temple. When I come back and I check, my team won. So I realized that each time my team is playing and I have to go to the temple, I just have to go to the temple. One, because it's for a higher purpose. And two, it's also going to make me feel that, okay, if I go to the temple, my team is going to win, which I want my team to win. But the way you described it, I really appreciate it, because as you were talking about just reading the headlines, I remembered how my own Gurudev used to do. Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, when he would come to Ghana, he would ask the authorities to get him, of course, those days, newspapers, and he would just read the headlines, not going into the details, just the headlines. And just reading the headlines, he would get the understanding of what's going on in the country. So when he's speaking to the country, he can talk about such topics and offer some spiritual solutions to those problems. And it always worked so beautifully. So thank you for saying that. But I also have one personal question for you, Prabhuji, because you were like the main person together with His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, in charge of the Namahata programs. And I wanted to find out from you, how is the Namahata programs today? How is it functioning?
Well, you see, the world is very big, and it's hard to say how is it going in the whole world. I give you one example. Maharaj Jayapataka Maharaj once was in the Altai region of Russia, okay, and he asked the devotees, "How many of you live in the temple?" And nobody raised his hand. So then he asked, maybe they didn't understand the question, maybe he didn't translate properly. So how many of you? There was many. It was thousands, hundreds of devotees there. Okay, big program. He was there. So again, yeah. So how many of you live in the temple? And actually, the answer was nobody lived in the temple. So it's a fact that the vast majority of devotees in the world don't live in the temples anymore. So those who are sincere and active, they organize themselves in a formal, informal way. They get together, they call it Namahata, call it Bhakti Vriksha, call it Council of System. No, community life, companionship, and association, we call it association, devotees association, sadhu sangha, can take different forms. So definitely, there's a lot going on. Like once in Moscow, they made a map. Moscow has a very developed subway system. And they made a map with this on the subway map. They made dots. Actually, they put Jagannath face everywhere they had a Bhakti Vriksha.
Wow.
And there are more than 100.
Wow.
And still, they already had 3-4 temples in Moscow. But Moscow is a big place, like 10 million people. So many people, certainly. So to say how it's going, I would say that it's an accepted fact. Some people are developing very systematically. There is, when we start. I mean, when I got involved in talking about the topic, there was still some stigma or full-time devotees, part-time devotees. Now that is, which is something that Srila Prabhupada never spoke about, full-time, part-time, because a devotee is a devotee. You're not like part-time Christian or full-time Christian. If you're Christian, you're Christian. If you're atheist, you're atheist. You're not a part-time atheist. So devotee is a devotee. Now, you may say full-time preacher or temple resident, ashramite. You can use these different words, but not part-time devotee. Devotee is not a job. Now, so there is much more acceptance because most people are living at home. Many temple presidents live in their places, then they go do the service at the temple. Even GBCs, So it's an accepted fact that devotees means those who practice devotion. It's not anymore, oh, you have to live in the temple. Sometimes it's even the opposite. Sometimes people who live in the temple, they are looked with some degree of suspicion, meaning, oh, well, they can't do it in the material world. They don't have a responsibility. They just take shelter. Not everybody, but in some place you may think, why he lives in the temple, doesn't have a family, doesn't have a job. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm just saying, so the world is very big. If you see so many countries where devotees are, and Namahata or association in people's homes, it's an accepted part of life. Sometimes it's the only association that people have, and sometimes the temples support, sustain, facilitate that. It's a big world. It's a big planet.
Yeah.
In China, they don't even have a temple. China, they don't have a temples, but devotees, they preach, they live. They don't have temples. They cannot have temples. but they still manage to be together and so on. So, as a general statement, I would say it's going very well because it's being more and more accepted culturally in the life of the Bhakti Yoga.
Wow.
So I would go in a few minutes if you allow, unless there is some final.
Yes. Prabhuji, thank you so much. I must say thank you for that service. Of course, you, like you said, once a devotee, always a devotee. Once Namahata minister, always Namahata Bhakti Vriksha minister. Thank you so much for that service. Anadi Niranam Prabhu, would you like to unmute yourself and ask a
Well,
question?
he wrote the quest. He wrote actually. If you may, you see, it's in the chat.
Yes, yes, please. Okay, you may read it, or if I can read it.
Whereas churches in Europe are being sold for other purposes, churches are emerging every now and then. What do you think is the dynamic? See, in general, Europeans are losing interest, but there are other places where people are not using so much interest. Also, there are different type of churches. It's a question of dynamic. In Europe, because it's going on for more than 1,000 of years, there are huge buildings that are very hard to maintain. If you see, like in Africa, in my experience in Ghana and Nigeria, opening a church, sometimes you just have a garage and that's a church, right? Or a shack and you have a church. So, first of all, there is much more unregulated. Like in Africa, you can take a course as a pastor for 6 months and then you open your own church, right? The blood of Jesus International. They always put international, right? Because sounds good. Also because maybe they have two churches, one in Ghana, one in Togo, so they say it's international. And it's in one sense it is. But anyway, anybody can become a pastor. Easy. 6 months you can become a pastor and you can open your own church. So I'm not saying that it's just for business. I'm not saying these people believe in God. They want to spread the word of God. It's unregulated, so anybody can do their own church, and people are more pious. People are, we could say, have less distraction. They can afford less distraction, and church life is in Africa is more lively than in Europe. In Europe, it's kind of very boring. It's very formal. It's very cold. But in Africa, there is singing, and people participate more, and even the pastors are more fired up, right? No, either because they threaten to go to hell, or because they are more enthusiastic, more energy. The Bible says so. In Europe, nobody says that. Even the priests are more sedated. They're more calm. No, so there's not much energy. So yeah, I mean, this is a big world, a big planet. There are many reasons: economic, cultural, social, political, also educational. So yeah, it's a fact that my experience, at least in Africa, there's a lot of churches coming up, independent church, and there is demand. There is demand. Yeah. So it's not that, I mean, in China, the church is growing despite some level of persecution. So I'm not, I don't want to say what you call in an absolute way, in an absolute way. But so if people have some taste, either because they believe in the pastor, or because the pastor is a good preacher, or because they are very pious, or because they don't have much alternative, that for social life, either you go to church or where you go, or because Krishna in the heart inspires, goes to church, and they listen to church, listen to the message on the heart. So yeah, there are many different experiences, but in general, especially if we talk about Europe, yeah, people are losing interest. It's just not so entertaining and not so involving.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. I know you have to leave, but can I ask one last question, Prabhuji, please?
Sure.
And I promise this will be the last question, I promise. And Prabhuji, the question I have is, I'm sure you probably have seen it sometime on the television, how some people, especially in Africa, try to get to Europe, or they want, especially Europe, and lots of them die on the way. And sometimes some people also want to travel from Africa to the US, and it's so difficult. So lots of the time people will even give up. Now, my question is, for us as Krishna Bhaktas, we hearing so much about Vaikuntha planets, so beautiful. And also, we also read the difficulty and how uneasy it is to get there. Now, what do we do? What do we do as devotees to have the intense desire that, yes, I see some people die on the way to Europe, but still some people are able to make it to Europe, and I want to get to Europe, so I will try my best. Some people even give up the idea of trying to travel to America, but still some people are able to go there. So what will be the motivating factor for us as devotees that, yes, even though it's difficult, some great personalities like Vijay were stopped by the doorkeepers. So who am I? But at the same time, we feel that, okay, we can go. So what will be the motivating factor, and what exactly can we do to prepare ourselves to get it?
Okay, the main factor is Shravanam. The main factor is hearing. The main factor is being absorbed in getting this information. So without distraction, more we are distracted by this, that, the other thing, then of course the desire becomes less and less. Srila Prabhupada somewhere in the Bhagavatam says the first qualification for entering the spiritual world is that intense desire to hear about Krishna. Because that's all there is in the spiritual world. Everybody is talking about Krishna. Everybody. The elders, the junior, the same age, the gopis, the gopas, everybody, the cows, the peacocks, they're all thinking and talking about Krishna. There's nothing else. So if we are not in that wavelength, if we are not synchronized in that, well, what we are going to do there? There's only Krishna Katha. So that's the first and foremost. Hearing. Now, the hearing gets disturbed by distraction. This sport, this news, this politics, this conflict, this temptation, this, there are millions of things. Maya, if you don't like soccer, you like basketball. If you don't like basketball, you got baseball. There are balls of different shapes and different games. They like chess. Some people in Maya they like chess, and they just watch people playing chess or billiards. I mean, Maya is expert to give us millions of reasons and pretexts not to hear. So, Srila Prabhupada say once in a class, he says, he was giving, the topic was tapasya, austerity. And he says, reading books 2 hours a day is an austerity. So, in other words, we could do something. No, we can scroll on YouTube and look cats and dogs. They're very entertaining, right? These cats and dogs, they play, they bite each other or something. It's easier than take the Bhagavatam or listen to a class, because you got some effort to listening. No, it's all either reading or listening, and also is always control your mind, control your senses. It's not like it's not what you call. It's not very lenient. The message, no, it's very stern, very serious. So we need to organize that to listen. Like I have one of those little machines, it's actually like a radio. And the first thing I do in the morning when I go in the bathroom to brush my teeth, I turn it on and I have the Srila Prabhupada classes. I mean, you may have in the phone, I have this machine. It's like a radio, and there is the memory, all the Srila Prabhupada classes. And the first thing I do in the morning, I get up, I go in the bathroom. Those 10, 15 minutes I spend in the bathroom, I hear Srila Prabhupada. So immediately, some sense of reality, no? And it's not an effort, because I'm there brushing my teeth anyway, and Srila Prabhupada is talking about this and that and the other thing. Sometimes it's very humorous, sometimes very serious, but at least I get something, right? So we need to organize ourselves. And we need to spend time with other people who have this taste. Somehow I see again and again many of the same devotees coming to these classes, and somehow they're here, they listen patiently, and I'm surprised, and I'm honored, and I'm very appreciative. I'm very respectful towards these devotees who somehow they could do anything, but they're here and listening day after day. I'm sure that some of them come every day. I come every month, but you come every day. So I would say the first thing is listening, because through listening, we reorient ourselves. We understand what we understand, who we are, what is the world, what is the prospect of this world, what is the prospect of this life in the material world. There's no prospect, there is life and death, that's all. And what is the spiritual world, what is the ecstasy of the inhabitants. Just like, as you said, some poor African from very difficult situation, they want to go to Europe because they heard about Europe. They've never been there, but they heard that, okay, there are jobs and it's safer, there is less violence. Of course, there are many problems in Europe also. It's not that, it's not paradise, but in some place, it's certainly easier life than in some other place where there is war, where there is pestilence, where there is so much poverty, and so on. Certainly, in some place in Europe, it's a little more normal. You can survive a little easier, like that. So I would say, as a number one, hearing, Shravana, hearing, because that gives us the direction, the orientation.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. And we are very much fortunate. We have that opportunity to hear about Krishna and his pure devotees. And the Lord is so kind, giving us different speakers almost every single day. And you happen to be one of such regular speakers. We're very much grateful and thankful. Dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all, with one love, one heart, chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our deepest appreciation to our revered speaker for today, His Grace, KAUNTEYA Prabhu, for sharing his love and wisdom with us. As always, please, you may unmute Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha, kripa sindhubhyeva cha, patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Ananta
Krishna.
Koti Vaishnava Vrinda
Thank
Ki
you very
Jai.
much.
Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Yeah.
Jai. All glories to His Grace Kaunteya Prabhu Ki Jai. All
Jai.
glories to Jagat Krishna Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Thank you very much. We
All
are very
glories to Samra
grateful
Vaishnava
for this.
Vaishnava devotees Ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare